With more, sorry about that. With more than 15 years of experience in sales and business development for software as a service, financial services, as well as hardware products, Jimmy embodies the fabric of the independent automotive industry. Jimmy is a true family man, recently married. He loves to spend time with his 7 children, son-in-law, and new granddaughter. Outside of the office, Jimmy enjoys the outdoors and breathing fresh air on the mountain trails. Jimmy's presentation today are tips, tricks, skills you can implement within your shop today. With that being said, Jimmy Lee, the floor is yours, and thank you for being here today for our Lunch and Learn. We appreciate it.
Well, thank you. Thank you for the invitation. I'm super excited to be here. Glad that you chose this of all topics, of all things that we can discuss today, because this is so important. And I'm excited to talk about it. And we'll get into this in a moment. As you know, this is sponsored by Nawaka as well as Kukui. And we appreciate their love and support of us and of our industry and of what we're doing to make things like this possible. Kukui started on the island of Kauai. And these beads that I wear are Kukui beads. And the word translates directly to mean enlightenment. So I'm here today to help enlighten you as a shop owner to what you can do in your shop to make that difference. Kukui is a software as a service. It takes the best of the software industry and has coupled that together with the best practices of the automotive industry. These two coupled together brings to you the best of the best in the industry. Just as Nawaka is the best association in the Northwest, Kukui is the best in North America to help you as a shop owner know what works in your marketing and what doesn't. My name is Jimmy Lee. I am Kukui. I'm so excited to be here to talk to you about these things. What are we going to talk about? These things that we're going to talk about are lead scoring. What is a lead scoring? Phone call scoring. When the phone rings, you want to be on your A game. You need to put your best foot forward. And so we're going to talk about scoring calls. But there's that one thing. The enticement that got you to join this webinar today was talking about the one thing. You need this one thing. I'm going to tell you all the way at the very end what the one thing is, because we have to understand all of these points up to the one thing. So that one thing, stay tuned. It's coming here at the very end. So we're talking about phone calls that are coming into your shop and you need to score them. Call scoring is what we're going to call this. Lead scoring. This is going to help you as a shop owner to improve the skills on the vital, the very most important tool inside of your shop. If you are not certified to operate this tool, you shouldn't. You shouldn't. Leave it up to those who are certified on this tool to be that person who answers the phone. It is a very good skill to have, and some people have it and some don't. And if you don't, it's not bad. It's not derogatory. It's just that some people have it and some people don't. So let's talk about lead scoring, what it is, why to do it. It encompasses so many different things, making sure that you keep track of these. Many of us have call recording in our shops, voice over IP or a VoIP system. That is one way of doing it. Anytime you do any marketing, putting a tracking number on that marketing piece so you can track how effective that is, those tracking numbers are able to record that phone conversation. And so that call is recorded. This is your money call. This is the money call that comes into your shop. Record these calls so you can analyze what's going well and what's not, and keep track of them. Make a bucket for Pamela, make a bucket for Carissa, make a bucket for Jennifer, make a bucket for Jimmy, and keep those calls in there so that you have record of how these people answer the phone. As well, we'll talk about that in a second here. You're going to score these calls from a scale of 1 to 10. And I pause here for a moment to say, you as a shop owner, yes, you should listen to these calls, but who should score them? Yes, you definitely want to give them a score from 1 to 10. Also, allow the person who was on the phone to listen, because they will become their greatest coach. They will hear the things that they're saying, especially if they've gone through some phone training. They'll hear the things that they're saying, and they will be their biggest critic to make those changes in their script, in their conversations, in that script that they have going in their head. So we keep track of the calls, score the calls, and keep those best of the best calls so that you can play them later. Keep an average rolling score of each of the employees. How are they doing on a monthly basis? And show that improvement, show that those skills are improving as you're going along, because they will. They will improve as you give focus and attention here to call scoring. You will see those skills improve. You'll see the phone conversions improve. And this is really where we want to get to, is not just being pleasant on the phone, but also converting those people who are calling the shop into paying customers. Okay. And then, you also want to be able to filter down those calls so that some people don't have the ability to think of it or to create it in their own mind. So sometimes you've got to play a number 9 score call so that they can hear what a 9 sounds like, or what a 10 sounds like, or what an 8 sounds like, because maybe their calls are in the 3s and 4s when it comes to a score, but they just really don't hear where it is that they can make a difference. If you play another call next to it, they can hear the difference between a score of a 3 and a score of a 9. There's some absolute differences that you can hear in those. And a lot of times you want to ask questions of the employee of what they heard and what that call meant to them. Okay, so why should we use call scoring? Now, any of you, if you have questions as we're going along here, I would love for you to unmute and ask your questions now, because when we get to the very end, if we're going to have to come trekking backwards, we can do that. But I would love for your questions to come as we're asking this. So you can go ahead and unmute yourself, ask the question, and we'd be happy to answer those. Okay, why would you want to use scoring? Because this call scoring helps you with coaching and training. Coaching and training is going to help the employee to improve their skills and improve the conversions and improve the customer experience inside of your shop. Measure all the calls. Measure all the calls. Should I score all of the calls that come into the shop? So that's a question for you. Carissa, what do you think? Pamela, what do you think? Should we really score all of the calls that are coming into the shop? I would say all of them is a lot of phone calls to score. Wouldn't you say, Pamela?
Yes, I would, but I want to say the answer to that question is yes, but I'm not entirely sure.
So I'm going to put a semicolon that says, well, it depends. And I would say, instead of scoring all of the calls, let's score the money calls. The money calls are the calls that you've put a tracking number out on marketing material. So somebody that's seeing this has a need, and their need needs to be solved at your shop. So let's score those money calls. These are people calling in for that appointment or for that coupon or for that marketing material that you've put out into the market. Those are the calls that you really want to measure. Measure them for their effectiveness. Are they reaching the right audience? And are they converting? So here you've got a little Excel spreadsheet, and you've got your calls that are recorded. You can play those calls. You can record a score for those calls, and then measure what is converting, so people can hear on the phone what's converting. All right, and make it easy to filter this down so that you can hear this information. All right, so what are we talking about here? Here's an example of what you can set up to be able to listen to these calls. Now, all of the programs are different. You've got all these different call tracking recording places that are able to do this. Most of them have the ability for you to leave call notes in the recording so that you can put in there, okay, this score is a 6, and here's the reasons why I'm giving it a 6. Make it easy for the person who left the recording, who answered the phone. Make it easy for them to be able to listen to this call and hear why it is that they got a 6. Or when they're going through and scoring themselves, they can see why it is that they scored themselves at a 6, because they're listening to their calls. So assign it to the employee, and then from there, give it a score. And then from there, track this on a monthly basis so you can show, and I'm going to come and circle over here, so you can show your employees what the average call answer score is for the entire team, or you can drill it down to the specific employees. And what I'm also showing here is the conversion rate. And in the beginning, when you start scoring your calls and start looking at this conversion, you're probably going to see that you're scoring in about the 8, 9, 10% conversion. So once you shine a light on this, you want to see that conversion go up. Here's 26. Some of the highest scores I have seen are in the 30s. I did see a shop that was scoring in the 40s, low 40s, in converting phone calls into customers. That was amazing. That really was. And by tracking where all of these calls are coming in from and the source, here I'm circling on the source, you can really hone in on which of your marketing sources are providing you the best results. But then also back to what we're talking about on scoring the calls, you can see where you are improving the best and what is converting the best there, because you are scoring the calls. Okay, so from the call, score it, and then put in a filter inside of your Excel spreadsheet so that you can drill down to find, here's a really bad, and it's always good in your coaching and training, show a really bad example. And then right behind it, show it a really good example. Because even in that call that scores an 8 or a 9, there are mistakes that are made. I do it. We all do it. We're human. We fall into our old habits. Those 8 or 9, when you listen to them, those that have scored an 8 or a 9, you will hear where it is that you can improve the call. The employee will hear it, you will hear it, and that will help them on their next call to be even more precise in their language, in their answering questions, and in giving prices over the phone. Maybe in your shop, you don't give prices over the phone. This helps them to see ways that they can navigate through that to get that customer into the shop, get the inspection done, or to implement your process, your SOPs with that customer, get them in there. Also, so not only can you drill down by the score, maybe you want to drill it right down to the employee. Also make that as a searchable function. So if we want to hear all the calls from Carissa, we can hear all of those calls that Carissa has answered and see what her scores is and her averages. Same with Darren. If we want to listen to all of Darren's calls, because you have assigned Darren as the person who answered the phone, we can drill into that. So maybe Darren needs a little bit of one-on-one. By doing this, you can really hone in onto listening to Darren's calls quickly instead of searching and searching and searching and searching. You've already got those calls ready to go there. All right, so how about some tips and tricks to help you get the highest impact? What are some ways that you can improve your phone calls short-term and long-term? We'll talk about what these look like. Number 1, start small. This is a huge elephant. You're not going to eat it all in one day. Improving telephone skills is a constant, consistent daily effort. Start small. Start by scoring the calls on 2 or 3 small things. Once that is consistently hit, then you add 2 or 3 more things to the call scoring. And then you add 2 or 3 more things to the call scoring. Don't start out with a rubric that has 60 different points on how to score the call or not. You want to start very small. Have 2 or 3 items that you're looking for that you want to see on every single phone call. From those 2, then start adding more. All right. Second thing, very important. Those of you taking notes, take notes. Take notes on each of the calls. Why is it you gave it a score of 4 or 5 or 6? Don't just put the number in there, because then as the employee or the coach or the team comes back together, they look at the call and it gave it a 4. Then you listen to the call and you're like, oh, wow, man, that's really not as bad as I thought it was. Maybe it's a 6, but why did I give it a 4? Well, maybe I listened to the call before lunch and I was really upset. I was a little bit hangry. Yeah, Darren, you've probably done that before, right? Yeah, we've done that. So take notes. Take notes so that you know why it is you gave it a 4 or why you gave it a 6 or why it is a 1. Okay, beyond that, number 3, let's set some goals. Have some short-term goals and some long-term goals. Have some goals that are going to help you to improve the calls in the shop consistently on a consistent running basis. You want to be able to see this by setting goals. Does everybody know how to set goals, short-term goals, long-term goals? Okay, I'm seeing a lot of heads nod. Okay, good. Be consistent. This is your fourth thing. These scores will be more effective if you are consistent in coaching and training, in training the team, in making sure that the team knows why it is the calls are scored and why it is that they are scoring high or low, and what and where they need to improve. So be consistent in your scoring of these calls. Questions, comments, concerns? Love to address them. Please ask. Please ask. Next, we're going to be heading into, so you got those 5 different areas to improve those phone calls. This is a rubric that I have created, and I've created it to help improve phone calls. This is not the cure-all answer. Carissa and Pamela, I'm going to send this to you guys so that you can forward it to everybody that's on the call. And then anybody that asks for it, you can have a link to it wherever you want to put it. Totally fine.
Awesome. Thank you.
Start small. Start small. Start by maybe only scoring in these first 3 criterias. And this is the greeting. This is where you have that 17 seconds, or maybe it's 3.5 seconds, to really show the customer that they've called the right place, they're talking to the right person, and you are there to answer their phone call. You are there to solve their problems. And then as you go along a little bit further, maybe you add a few more criteria to scoring the call. And then maybe you add a little bit more and a little bit more. And it gets to a point now where the phone call has a lot that goes into it. There's a lot that goes into this scoring. And your calls are converting now at a 30, 35, 40% rate, as opposed to when you started and it was converting at a 10% rate. This is much higher and much better. Questions, comments, concerns? You've got them. I've got the answers.
So, Jimmy, could I chime in?
Yes, please.
Utilizing at a limited follow through the Kukui platform for the web stuff that we've invested over the years and stuff. We've got such a large team and so many phone calls that, biting this off just in a small chunk. You've got some basic stuff on the website that allows us to see that conversion rate already. So we've got kind of a baseline. So is our Kukui person that we kind of have our contact person, maybe it'll help us walk back through some of that stuff that we probably got sold and explained when we signed up, but then we haven't utilized because it kind of just works in the background for most of us, or for me anyway. But to improve on it, I've been able to move a little bit away from working in the shop to working on the shop a little more, which would maybe allow me a better chance, a little bit more. As you could see the commotion behind me a minute ago, there's still a limited space to do that around here. I am working from the office today. Looks like a few of y'all working from home. So I'll give myself credit for being at the office. But so the Kukui rep could kind of walk us through where to start looking at those statistics so that we could review later how we've improved.
Yes, absolutely, Darren. And I appreciate you bringing that up. What you can do with your Kukui system is to have your employees in already. Then as you're listening to the call, you just assign the employee. That's generally what I do. And then as you go back and you listen to all the calls for Carissa, then you can give Carissa these grades or the scores. And then as you could listen to the calls for Pamela, you give her a score. And then as you listen to the calls for Mark, you give Mark a score. And that'll really help you focus your time and effort and energy. But I would say, Darren, and this goes to everybody, Mark and Pete and Keith, Micah, listen, let your employees go in and pick a call. And I would start with 2. I would start with 2, Darren, and say, All right, Carissa, I need you to send me the best call you had today. The best call, the best results. I want to hear the best call of the day. And then number 2, I want to listen to the call that needs the most improvement. This worded that way helps them to understand that you're here to hear the very best of the day. And then what can we do to improve? Notice I didn't call it the worst call of the day. This is the call that needs improvement. How can we listen to it together? How can we improve this process together to make this better for the next customer? Have the employee do it. They listen to the call. They can send them to you with their score, because they need to listen to the call and give it a score. And then you can collaborate to say, all right, Carissa, yeah, I agree with you 100%. This best call of the day was an 8. It was a solid 8. And this call that needs improvement, let's listen to it together. Let's point out those areas that we can improve it. Maybe even role play that together on a weekly basis. You're able to role play it, or maybe it's a monthly basis. You have your phone training, or maybe it's a quick call on a daily basis for that quick little finite tune. Darren, phenomenal question. Thank you. I appreciate that. Other questions, comments, concerns? Are you ready for the one thing? Everybody's nodding their head. I love it. Yes. Okay. Here is the one thing that you have to have on every phone call, no matter what. And it is the tone of your voice. You can hear a smile coming through the phone. So how do you help your employees to be smiling when they're on the phone? Some people, they put a mirror up in front of the employee so the employee can see themselves smiling. Some people write it right on the handset that says, smile before you pick up the phone. Smiling really helps the tone come through to the customer on the other end of the phone. Tone is so important that you can hear it through the phone. When we have conversations face to face, 55% of that conversation is body language. 38% of it is tone, and 7% of it is the words we use. When you're on the phone, it changes, and it's now 55% is the tone that you use, and 45% is the words you're using. It's completely different. So you could use great tone with a Chinese language or Spanish, and the person on the other end might not even understand it, but your tone will convey a plethora of them having called the right place or not. Tone is vitally important. It's also something that you can score on. So make sure that as you're listening to the calls, have your employees score themselves on their tone. Did I sound happy or not? Was I smiling or not? Did my customer or did the prospect leave this phone call smiling, understanding they were calling the right place? Tone is key. It's vital. Vital on every call, has to be there. Listen to your calls, record them, listen to your calls, and improve them. They will help you to close deals at the shop. And the biggest objective on every phone call is to set up that appointment, is to get them to bring their car in, especially if they haven't been into your shop before. That is the deal. That is the deal. That is the sale. Once they convert it and get that customer to come in, then you've got the next phase, the next deal, which is to close more than just an oil change. Seeing a lot of heads bobbing up and nodding. I appreciate that. Thank you. Questions, comments, concerns? Bring them out now. My name is Jimmy Lee. I appreciate your time. I appreciate talking about phone calls, phone call scoring, and talking about tone, because your voice, your tone, your smile can be heard coming across the phone or not. Brenda, Carissa?
Jimmy, thank you very much. Great presentation,
You're welcome. Thank
as
you.
always.
Here's my contact information. If you've got questions, that's my cell phone number. This is my email address. Would love to connect with you and talk about what you can do to improve your shop, improve your phone calls, your phone skills, the skills of your shop. Love to talk to you about what we can do to help this industry elevate.
Yeah, does anybody have any other questions?
I have one for you, Jimmy. When taking some of the techniques that you have just talked about and when working with some of your clients, what's kind of a time frame that maybe shop owners that are looking to implement this, what's kind of a time frame they can look at to see some of that change in their front office or with the individuals taking those calls? What would you say is the time frame that it takes to see some of that implemented?
That's phenomenal, Chris. I appreciate you asking the question. That time frame, the only correct answer is it depends. It depends on how consistent you are in the follow-up. It depends on how consistent you are with working with that employee to help them to improve. It depends on their willingness to make changes, because they are going to have to change the way they're doing things. It depends. I would say that if a shop owner is being very consistent and they are listening to these calls and they're working with the employee to make these changes, you should see the changes as quickly as a month to 2 months. If at the end of 3 months, there is no changes happening, you've either got to change the person or you've got to change the person. And since the person hasn't changed, you may have to change the person. Yeah, everybody's shaking their head. They're like, yep, been there, done that, seen it happen before.
Hey, Jimmy, could you do your contact information again? It was hidden behind some of the other attendees on my screen. I'm sorry.
Absolutely. My cell phone is 408-482-1035. And my email is jimmylee@kukui.com.
Jimmy, you're always on fire. Love you, brother. We missed you
Oh.
at Vision.
Thank you, sister. I appreciate you being here.
Will we
You're
see you at
awesome.
ATE?
Absolutely. I'll be at ATE and World Pack, and yep, can't
Right on.
wait for it. It's going to be happening. We're going to have a party.
Nice.
Are we going to see you next week in Southern California?
Yes, sir. I will see you there, Darren. Leaving on Monday.
I'm not going till Wednesday. Got a little bit of work to do.
Good for you. Good for you. Working on the business, not in the business.
Yeah, it's been tough the last couple of years. So much of the weirdness of the world has shoved us back in the business that we'd got away a little bit more and just keeping up on the weirdness of the world and the rules. And we're here in Oregon. We're starting next week. We won't have to mask up to come to our own office. Yeah, it's a stupid, got to wear a mask just to go in your own office right now. But as of Friday night, they're getting away with that. So we're hoping you talk about communication. And I don't think our advisors nearly understand I tend to speak, in my opinion, with a little sense of humor once in a while. You can't get it behind the mask that there's some humor going on in that conversation. I could walk by and ask you if you did that to your hair on purpose or was that an accident? And it could come off as complete asshole or kind of funny, but without the, yeah. Anyhow, I'm looking forward to that communication being even easier moving forward, and maybe making it easier for our staff as well to understand how that customer interaction is so key, and they don't even have a grasp of what we spend. What I spend with your company and our web presence and our AdWords and all the blah 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 blah. One thing I think that they've appreciated understanding is how much we really spend in having some of that. So what does it cost to get that phone to ring? What does it cost to not have that customer come in? What is the average invoice that we write? And having some of that set of numbers explained to our staff so that they get why it's so important and why we may seem to get frustrated when it doesn't go as well as it could have. And we don't see that improvement. And so we aren't able to make the change in the person. So we may have to make the change in the person. I get frustrated and they're like, what's your problem? We're doing great today. No, we could be doing great tomorrow if we were doing better at some of these steps. And so that explanation of why it's so expensive and why it's so worthwhile to spend a little time and energy working forward.
Yes, yes, and improving those skills. No saw, there's not a tool in your toolbox that likes to be sharpened. But when that tool is sharp, it's more effective. That service advisor needs to be sharpened. The skills need to be honed. And when they are, they will be more effective. Yeah, you guys are awesome. Work with your shops, work with your shop owners, work with your service advisors, your service writers. And if they are not certified to answer the phone, don't let them answer the phone. If you as an owner aren't good answering the phone, I have listened to calls. I kid you not. The shop owner on the other end said, "What do you want?" It was not even hello. It was just, "What do you want?" And I heard the prospect say, "Hey, is this Joe's Super Shop?" "Yeah, what do you want?" How much for an oil change?" $16.95. Okay, thanks, bye. What do you want? Are you kidding me? I could not believe it. That was true. That is absolutely true. That did happen. That was the shop owner, and the shop owner is no longer allowed to answer the phone. Because it's true. There's a very powerful tool in your shop. It is the phone. Make sure you're certified to answer it so that you can be the tool of conversion and be the tool to be the solution for those people that are calling you. They have a problem. You can be the answer. Thank you very much. Questions, comments, concerns? We're here to help out. This is my cell phone number. This is my email address. Would love to connect.
Thank you again, Jimmy, very much.
You're
Thank
very
you.
welcome.
We'll see you at ATE in a couple of weeks.
Couple of weeks at ATE.
I said, thank you.